Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Lesson from the Quran by thinker of the Quran, Allama Ghulam Ahmad Parwez. Chapter 20, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 62. Is Islam also a religion? Date 27 October 1968. A crucial verse and the danger of misinterpretation. As I mentioned at the end of the previous lesson, this verse is extremely important. If misunderstood, it can strip Islam of its entire essence. Unfortunately, such a wrong interpretation has been circulating for a long time. Therefore, understanding its correct meaning is essential. The verse is, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Indeed, those who believed, and those who were Jews, and the Christians, and the Sabians, whoever believes in Allah and the Last Day, and does righteous deeds, will have their reward with their Lord, and no fear will be upon them, nor will they grieve. The common misunderstanding. You must have often heard the claim that since there are many religions in the world, and since religions have historically been the cause of wars and bloodshed, the solution is to accept that all religions are equally true. The argument goes like this. Every religion claims to have come from God. If that is so, then all religions must be true in their own way. The conflicts and wars are only because each religion insists that it alone is true and others are false. Islam, being the last in the line of religions, is accused of being the most rigid in this claim. Therefore, critics say, Muslims are narrow-minded, declaring only their own religion true and denying truth in others. True broad-mindedness would be to say that every religion contains truth. The Quranic perspective. Parwez is pointing out here that this verse, 262, is often misused to support the idea that all religions are equally valid, that the Quran's actual teaching is different. It does not reduce Islam to just another religion among many. Instead, it sets a universal principle. Any community, at any time, that truly believes in God, the accountability of the hereafter, and lives by righteous deeds will find reward with their Lord. This is not about validating every religion's dogmas or rituals. It is about affirming the timeless law of God. Reward is based on belief in Him, accountability, and righteous conduct, not on labels or inherited identities. The attempt to create a new religion by collecting moral teachings. Some minds went even further. They said the separate identities and distinctions of different religions should be abolished. All the common denominators, the shared moral teachings, should be gathered together and declared the true religion. These moral teachings are almost identical across religions. Do not lie, do not steal, do not deceive, do not oppress, do not exploit, do not harm others. Since these ethical values are common to all religions, why not collect them into one system and call it the true religion? In India, this idea was first attempted practically by Emperor Akbar, 1542 to 1605 CE. The driving motive behind his Deen-e-Ilahi was precisely this, to combine the shared truths of different religions into one. Although there were other elements in his system, the basic impulse was this. Later, Dara Shikoh, 1615 to 1659 CE, also raised this voice. Being deeply devoted to Sufism, he laid the foundation of what may be called Hindu Sufism on this idea. Ram and Rahim are one and the same. He popularized this thought. You know that in India, figures like Kabir, 1440 to 1518 CE, Panka, Surdas, and even in the beginning, Guru Nanak carried this message forward. These saintly, fakir-like personalities and their disciples spread the idea in simple language, through songs and verses. Their purpose was to say, Ram and Rahim are one. To shed blood over their distinction is inhuman. Whether one worships Ram or Rahim, whether one goes to the temple or the mosque, there should be no quarrel over these things. Thus they claimed there is no difference between Kufr and Islam. Kabir expressed it in these words, Ganga ek khat behtere, Kahat Kabir Aql ke pere. The Ganga is one, though there are many bathing ghats. Kabir says, this is the trick of the mind. You can see that the foundation of Sufism is always metaphor.
and metaphor sticks so strongly that logical explanation no longer remains. Saying the Ganga is one, though the Ghats are many, seems very reasonable, but to equate differences of ritual with differences in the river itself is illogical. These wandering ascetics, sadhus, sannyasis, who lived unclothed, smoked hemp, played rustic instruments, and sang songs, carried this idea forward. On our side too, fakir-like people spread the same thought. Later, this idea advanced further with the rise of the Brahma Samaj, 1830 CE, founded by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He also propagated the view that the truths and moral values of different religions should be collected together.
In their system, it was not necessary to accept any prophet or scripture. In fact, they said it should not be accepted, because that is what creates divisions. Their teaching was, live a moral life, acknowledge God, and that alone is sufficient for salvation. However, these ideas did not progress much until, in later times, they acquired a political color. Only then did they gain wider attention. My dear brothers, during the Pakistan movement, and even earlier, Allama Iqbal, 1877 to 1938, had presented the idea that Muslims, on the basis of their deen, system of life, constitute a separate nation. This concept became a thorn in the hearts of the Hindus. From there arose the thought that as long as Muslims hold the belief that their religion is distinct and superior to others, they will continue to see themselves as a separate ideological nation. Unless this belief is removed from their minds, the idea of separate nationhood cannot be erased. This was the political foundation upon which a new kind of propaganda was launched. You can see how innocent this propaganda appeared on the surface. Mahatma Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, popularized it, saying, "Why should there be conflict and strife between religions? The root cause is that people are taught our religion is true, the other is false. We Hindus do not teach our children this, but Muslims from childhood instill in their children the idea that Islam alone is the true and superior religion, and no other religion is true. Therefore, Gandhi argued children's education should be reformed so that religious distinctions are removed. They should be taught that all religions are equally true in their own way, and none has superiority or preference over another." Abul Kalam Azad's Quranic commentary in support of the Hindu religious concept. It is obvious that if such a statement came from the tongue of a Hindu, Muslims would not be ready to accept it, nor would it prove effective. For this purpose, it was necessary that the statement should come from a Muslim, and this service was performed in our land by the Imam of India of that era, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, 1888 to 1958. He wrote his work Tarjuman al-Quran. At the beginning of this work, he wrote a detailed commentary on Surah al-Fatiha. Strictly speaking, Tarjuman al-Quran is not a full commentary, it is a translation with explanatory notes. But in its opening, he presented a lengthy and elaborate commentary on Surah al-Fatiha. In this commentary, the central point he emphasized was that no religion has superiority over another. All religions are equally true. This commentary was first published in 1931 or 1932. At that time, Abul Kalam Azad was regarded as the Sultan of the pen and the Emperor of speech. His scholarship carried immense weight. For nearly 25 to 30 years, there had been anticipation and excitement for this commentary. People eagerly awaited it, and when it was finally published, it was received with great reverence. The work quickly became widespread and popular throughout India. The first critical article written by Parwez in 1933 against this commentary. No one had spoken against the point that universal truths are equally present in all religions. I will say, as a reminder of God's favor, that this honor fell to this humble servant alone. My very first article was published against this idea in January 1933 in Ma'arif. That article was a critique of the commentary which had been published. By Allah's grace, that single critique changed the course of history. The influence they wanted to spread in India was stopped right there. Mahatma Gandhi's 1869 to 1948 educational scheme, prepared by Dr. Zakir Hussain Khan, who later became president, was based on this commentary. That scheme failed. The curricula built upon it had to be drowned in the sea off the coast of Bombay.
and in India, this idea was ended for the future. In that commentary, it was written, and it still exists with later editions printed, that the Quran presented to humanity the principle of the universal truth of religion. It not only stated that every religion contains truth, but clearly declared that all religions are true. It said that Deen is God's universal gift, so it is impossible that it was given to one nation or community alone, while others received no share of it. I will later explain where the fallacy lies in this. The commentary claimed that the divisions of religion and the outward rituals of human salvation and happiness have no real difference. These divisions are man-made, whereas the religion established by God is one. What is that true Deen? It says, it is the worship of one God and a life of righteous conduct. Whoever adopts faith and righteous living will attain salvation, whether or not he belongs to your religious divisions. It openly declared that its purpose was nothing other than to unify all religions upon their common and agreed truth. It said, all religions are true, but the caravan of religions has deviated from truth. If they readopt the forgotten truth, then my mission is complete. They have accepted me.
This common and agreed truth of all religions it called al-Din and al-Islam. Elsewhere it was written that the Quran says, these rituals and practices are neither the essence nor the reality, nor is their difference one of truth and falsehood. They are merely the outward framework of religious life, while the spirit of reality is above them, and that alone is the true essence of Deen. What is the true Deen? For this, he says, it is the worship of one God and a life of righteous conduct. It is not the inheritance of any one group, such that no other human being has received it. The essential statement is that it is equally present in all religions. In all the religions existing in the world, this Deen is present in its true form. Therefore, all religions are true. Their followers have deviated from its teachings, and everyone acknowledges this. If they act upon the truths of their own religions, then he says that Islam declares, my mission is complete. That is, Islam came only to say to all the followers of religions, in your own way, in your own manner, however you acknowledge God, whatever things you consider as righteousness in your tradition, if you act upon them, then my mission is fulfilled.
Translations of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad's Quranic commentary in view of its political significance. You have seen how this was presented. To gauge its political importance, note that Congress had this portion of his commentary translated into Hindi and Gujarati, and it was widely published throughout India. Those who were interested in the Pakistan movement at that time will remember, these events unfolded before them. This was what was happening in India regarding that movement. And let me add here, the real matter was that Maulana Azad, 1888-1958, in that stage of his life had himself become disillusioned about the future of Islam. I do not say this as an accusation after a man's death. His book India Wins Freedom, his last book, published after his passing, states clearly at the end, Islam had in fact attempted to form a nationhood on the basis of Deen. This experiment proved a complete failure. Therefore, to repeat it would be folly. The book exists, and these words are there. Thus, this is what he said near the end of his life. It appears that he no longer retained conviction about Islam. And when that conviction was gone, then naturally such ideas emerged. All right, in your own way, Ram is the same as Rahim.
This is the background, and he supported it with the verse I presented before you. Indeed, those who believed, whether they were Muslims, Jews, Christians, or Sabians, a star-worshipping people like the Magians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does righteous deeds, for them is their reward with their Lord, and no fear shall be upon them, nor shall they grieve. Now, he says, whether one remains a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, or a Magian, if he believes in Allah and the hereafter and lives a righteous life, then that is sufficient. Nothing more is required. Does Islam consist only of a few moral teachings? Here the question arises, a life of righteous conduct, which you have described as a few moral things, such as do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive, do not oppress. Why is it necessary to add the condition of belief in Allah and the hereafter? If an atheist does the same, does not lie, does not deceive, does not oppress, does not exploit, even without such belief, then why should this condition be necessary? Does one have to be affiliated with a religion? Why is belief in God necessary? Why is belief in the hereafter necessary?
Will God deny him reward simply because he did not acknowledge him? What is the connection of these things? If it is only about righteous conduct, then this condition should not have been there. Maulana Azad, 1888 to 1958, says, God worship and righteous conduct. But why even God worship? Then according to his conception, righteous conduct alone is sufficient. On the surface, this appears very innocent, but the fundamental mistake, my dear brothers, is the one I have repeated for years. Islam has been taken as a religion. According to the concept of religion, all these things seem correct.
Religiously, we have made salvation and reward possible according to our own concepts. What is religion? It is that individually, on your own, you do something. Individually, on your own, you attain salvation. Whether salvation has been attained or not, no one has external proof. It is merely a matter of belief. I convince myself that if I pray in this way, perform certain rituals, utter certain words, I will receive reward, and after receiving reward, I will attain salvation. Meanwhile, my Hindu neighbor may say, in the morning if I place flowers before the idol of Shiva, ring a bell, recite devotional mantras and verses, offer flowers at his feet, chant mantras, then I will receive merit, and my mukti, salvation, will be achieved. A Christian will do something in his church for salvation. A Hindu will do something in his temple. A Muslim will do something in his mosque or even in his room. This individual concept of salvation, religion being described as a private belief, if taken on that basis, then it seems fine. Each person in his own way does something and convinces himself that his salvation is achieved. Listen carefully. He convinces himself that his salvation is achieved. Neither the Muslim nor the Hindu has proof that such acts bring salvation or that other acts do not. No one can prove it. No person, even for himself, can say with certainty throughout his life, I am sure my salvation is achieved. What proof do you have? The proof is only belief. First comes the belief. If these things are done, prayers offered on time, fasts observed, or in Hinduism, devotion to Ishwar, offerings to Paramatma, rituals performed, then according to his belief, he thinks salvation is achieved. But he has no proof. Neither does the other. To prove it to others is impossible. Even for himself he cannot be certain, except that his belief tells him so. Therefore, in religion, when this is the case, then it seems very pleasing. Fine, each person does good deeds in his own way. Ishwar, Paramatma, God, acknowledge him, and salvation is achieved. The fundamental question remains, is this why religion comes? Is this what religion is? Religion is precisely this, and this is what is called religion.
God Almighty gave humanity not religion, but deen, a collective system of life. My dear brothers, as I have been saying from the beginning until today, from God comes not religion, but deen, and deen was not something given for the first time to the Holy Prophet. From the very first day, what was given was al-deen. Every prophet was given al-deen. After the prophet's departure, human ideas were mixed into this deen. Its message was altered, forgotten, erased, and it no longer remained in its original form. The collection of human ideas that was later produced was called madhab, religion, translated as religion. Then another prophet would come. What would that prophet do? He would bring back al-Din, which was a challenge against the corrupted religion. He would erase the altered form and re-establish al-Din. Then al-Din would return. But again, people would do the same. After the prophet or messenger, his followers would create a religion in place of deen, attributing it to that prophet, linking it to their books, but in reality adopting their own fabricated religion instead of the divine deen.
The final link in the chain of prophethood also gave deen, not human-made religion. These are the religions that are attributed to prophets, to the founders of religions. It is claimed that they were granted from God. Finally, through the Holy Prophet, al-Din came once more. He did the same as the earlier prophets. He brought al-Din. This deen was not a challenge to one particular religion. It was a challenge to the very concept of religion itself. Wherever deen had been corrupted into religion, it came to erase that and re-establish al-Din. That was its purpose. This is what is meant by a challenge against religion. The deen did this. For the last time, the Holy Prophet did so. But after his departure, after some time, Muslims too did what earlier followers of deen had done. They transformed it into religion. Thus Islam too was turned into a madhab, religion. The difference between Muslims and other religious communities, the preservation of the Holy Quran. Among Muslims and other religious communities, a fundamental difference emerged. That difference was that none of the other communities possessed God's code, within which was al-Din, God's revelation, God's book, in its original unaltered form anywhere in the world. But the code of Deen which the Holy Prophet ﷺ received from God has remained, word for word, in its pure, unaltered form until today. This became a very great fundamental distinction. If the followers of other religions today wish to replace their religion with al-Din, it would be impossible for them. The Deen that their founder or prophet had received no longer exists anywhere, and what they do have is not what we Muslims or the followers of Islam claim. As I have written in my book, The Heavenly Books of World Religions, by tracing the history of these scriptures in their own languages, even the followers of those religions admit that they do not possess their original book. And non-Muslim scholars and historians also testify that the Quran truly exists in its original form in the world.
Therefore, the claim of those who accept the Quran as al-Din, that the divine Deen is found only within it and nowhere else, is a claim supported by history. It is not like the saying, every shopkeeper claims his own goods are genuine, while others sell imitations. Rather, this is a verdict of knowledge, history, insight, and thought. The book given by God in its original form exists nowhere in the world except in the Quran. This is not merely a Muslim's claim. It is the testimony of history. Thus, if it is accepted that the true Deen is only that which came from God, then the logical conclusion is that the Deen given by God exists nowhere except in the Quran. The whole world acknowledges this. Therefore, if the first premise is accepted, that the true Deen is only what God gave, then the next conclusion follows logically. Apart from the Quran, al-Din is nowhere else. So you see, if the followers of other religions say, no, all religions are equally true, their claim is baseless, because they do not possess al-Din. They do not have God's book in which al-Din was contained. What they have are collections of human ideas. In contrast, if a believer in the Quran says, al-Din is only in this book, then his claim is not that he calls his own Deen true and others false, but rather that he is stating a scholarly and historical testimony. This is the fallacy that people present when they say, all religions came from God. As Abul Kalam Azad, 1888 to 1958, wrote, it cannot be that God gave revelation to one nation and not to another. This is absolutely correct. The Quran itself says that there is no nation in the world to whom we did not send a guide. In every nation, in every land, God's messengers came. Up to this point, it is true, but the fallacy comes afterwards.
If any nation in the world possesses the true Deen in its original form, let it present it. The question is, that Deen which was given to them, does it exist anywhere today? If any religious community possesses that Deen which their founder or prophet received from God, then let them present it to the world. If it exists in its original form anywhere, then in terms of Deen, there will be no difference between it and the Quran. But the fact is, it does not exist anywhere else in the world. Therefore, when Muslims say that al-Din is contained only within the Quran, some call this narrow-mindedness. But this is not narrow-mindedness. It is a declaration of reality, a statement supported by history. It is not because I believe in the Quran that I make this claim. The evidence for this claim is given even by those who do not accept the Quran as Deen. Purely from a historical perspective, they testify that this is the only book which exists in its original form. No other community possesses its original scripture. And the next point is, al-Din is not religion. In Deen, there is no question of deciding on one's own. Yes, my salvation is achieved, therefore I am a true follower of religion. Nor of deciding about another, his salvation is not achieved, therefore he is condemned to hell. What proof is there for such claims? The only proof is one's belief, but belief is not evidence. This is why, in the world of religion, endless disputes and conflicts arise. The fundamental reason for conflicts among nations or human beings is systems of life. In Deen, there is no question of conflict. This is because the focus of Deen is not merely salvation in the hereafter, but rather it provides a system for this world,
a system of civilization, a system of culture, a system of society, a system of economy, a system of politics. In short, a complete system. It is meant to establish a system in this world. And its claim is that all the problems of humanity can only be solved within the system given by Al-Din. No other system can provide those solutions. You have heard the claim. Now, its proof is not based on belief. Its proof is that scientifically and rationally, you can examine the fundamental principles of the system. The next proof is to practically implement it and see. And the historical testimony is that when this system was implemented, what kind of results did it produce in this very world? Tangible results, visible results, historical evidence stands before you. When the claim is of this nature, then there is no question of saying, I call my deen true, they call their religions true. The real question is, here's a system of life, implement it and see. If it produces the promised results, then it is true. If it does not, then it is false. And if similar results can be produced by another system, then you may say both systems are equal. But if those results cannot be produced by any other system, and only by this one, then it must be acknowledged that this system is indeed superior. This is Al-Din.
Today, the results of communism and capitalism are before us. Earlier, perhaps this matter was not easily understood, but in our time, it has become clear. Communism is a deen. I do not say al-Din, for al-Din is only that which comes from God, but deen means a system of life. Communism is presented as a deen, a system of life. Capitalism, in contrast, is another deen, another system of life. The difference between them is not one of belief, but of systems. The communist says, we have implemented this system, look at its results. The capitalist says, we have implemented our system, look at its results. Now, for someone to say, communism is correct and capitalism is also correct, is foolishness. These two must be compared. They are contradictory. Self-contradictory things cannot both be true. One must reach a conclusion about which is correct.
The system of Western democracy, where people are counted but not weighed. Democracy and monarchy are two deen, two political systems. The advocates of democracy claim this is the system that suits humanity. In contrast, monarchy, or in modern times dictatorship, Nazism, or fascism claims, no, this is the system that produces correct results for humanity. The decision cannot be made on the basis of belief. The decision must be based on what results these systems produce when implemented. Those results will show which system's claim is true and which is false. That is how it is determined which deen is true and which deen is false. You can see that in the world of religion there is no decisive standard, no objective measure. There is no external criterion. It is only a subjective belief. One person believes this way, another believes that way. But in deen, the criterion is external. The standard is the results that the system produces.
The great proclamation of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding systems of life. This was the standard of testing, about which the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam repeatedly said to the opponents, Qul ya qawmi imalu ala makanatikum, inni amilun, fasofa talamun. Say, O my people, work according to your way. I too am working. Soon you will come to know. Meaning, continue to act according to your deen, your system, your way of life which you claim to be correct. Implement it practically. I will not interfere. I only ask that you allow this deen to be implemented as well, without interference. Fasofa talamun. Soon you will know which deen, which system, produces the results it claims. The matter will become clear. You see, this is a pragmatic test, verification of a claim through its results. This is possible in deen, but not in religion. Religion leaves all results to the afterlife. No one has returned from there. No one has reported, nor can we observe it while sitting here. Its entire basis is individual belief. Live life here as you wish. Salvation and happiness will be in the afterlife. But deen says, here is how life must be lived. This is my claim. And I say if you live under this system, you will see humanity freed from the hell it has been suffering, and your worldly life will become a life of paradise.
And since this life continues forward, whoever's life here is paradise, his life in the afterlife will also be paradise. It does not separate the two. It is continuity. Thus, the standard is the results of the system here. The standard lies within deen. So one may say, religions are all true, but no one can say all adyan, systems of life, are true. Regarding systems of life, this cannot be said. And if someone does say it, then the next step is, very well, implement them practically and see. This is the scientific process. A scientist says of his formula, these will be the results. What is the proof of his claim? The laboratory, the test tube. He says apply it and see whether the results occur or not. Two contradictory formulas cannot both be true at the same time, my brother. If someone makes such a claim, the laboratory will prove one of them false. Therefore, it is foolishness to say that two contradictory scientific formulas can both be true simultaneously.
Despite the presence of al-Din, Muslims worldwide have for centuries been followers of religion. Deen is a scientific reality. This is its standard. Thus it may be said that it is by coincidence that we were born into homes where the Quran exists in its original form. Therefore, our position is advantageous, in that we can say the true deen is with us. Yet even this, among us, has now become merely a matter of belief. We cannot prove it. What we can prove is that the Quran, unaltered and preserved, is with us. But the way deen is to be established and demonstrated as true, that is not happening among us either. We too are followers of religion. Deen is not practically established among us. The formula is not being tested in the laboratory. Thus, when we speak to the world, we do so on the basis of religion. These daily debates and arguments with Hindus and Christians used to happen. Now, of course, this has diminished, since Hindus and Christians are no longer here.
The fundamental error in our debates. Therefore, our debates now occur among ourselves, between Deobandis and Barelvis. But the debates and arguments we used to have with other religions were based on the fact that we too had accepted ourselves as one religion among many. And as soon as you call yourself a religion, you lose all proof and evidence to show that salvation is only through your religion and not through another. If you speak on the level of deen, then your comparison will not be with Hinduism or Christianity as religions, but with systems of life. In other words, al-Islam, which is al-Din, must be compared with communism, with capitalism, with democracy, with dictatorship. These systems of life, adiyan, in the world are false. They are not al-Din. Your comparison must be with systems of life, not religions. Our fundamental error for 1,000 years has been that we ourselves placed Islam among the ranks of religions. And when you place it there, you lose any objective standard to prove publicly and decisively that truth lies only within it and not elsewhere. In religion, truth means salvation, and salvation, as I have explained, is merely a mental belief. How can you prove it externally? This is our fundamental mistake. All the prophets received the same deen from beginning to end. The methods of practicing deen varied according to times and circumstances, but in principle, al-Din was always one, always from God, conveyed through his prophets, and given to every nation. The Quran says, Shara'a lakum min ad-din, God has shown you the path of deen. Ma wasa'a bihi Noha, the Quran always begins the chain of prophets with Noah, first the mention of the earliest prophet, and then, Walladhi awhayna ilayk, the mention of the last prophet. The first prophet was given the same deen, and the revelation to the last prophet was also the same. And in between, وَمَا وَصَى نَبِهِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى وَإِيسَى, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus were all given the same. So, my dear brothers, what was said to them? It was said, An aqimu deen, establish deen, the system of life given to you through revelation. Establish it. This was no longer a matter of belief or thought, because its results would only appear when it was established. It was said, An aqimu din wa la tatafarraqu fi. Establish it, and do not divide within it, for al-Din is one. Do not create divisions. What happens if divisions are made? It was said, Kabura ala al-mushrikina ma tad'uhum ilayh. Those who commit shirk in God's deen, who create their own principles of life, will find this call burdensome, because truth lies only in deen, not in the systems they have corrupted with their own ideas.
And it is said, Allahu yajtabi ilayhi man yasha'u wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. This is God's law. According to it, he calls whom he wills to his deen.
How al-Din was turned into religion, who changed it, and why? My dear brothers, after this comes, وَمَا تَفَرَّقُوا إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم. How did religions come into existence? In this way, after every bringer of deen, his followers, out of mutual rivalry and for their own interests, introduced divisions into it. My dear brothers, how clear this becomes. The Quran itself testifies to these differences that arose among them. It says that our method was this, or you may say what we did was مَا نَنْسَخُ مِنْ آيَةٍ أَوْ نُنْسِيهَا نَأْتِي بِخَيْرٍ مِنْهَا أَوْ مِثْلِهَا. We would send deen, and then, either due to earthly and heavenly events, or due to people's own conspiracies, some parts of it would be erased and no longer remain, while other parts would be altered. Then another messenger would come.
What we did was, whatever part had been erased, if it was intended to remain, we would give a similar portion again through revelation. And whatever part was only meant to be temporary, methods, practices, forms suited to the circumstances of that time, most of that too was given through revelation. If a better method was needed for that era, we would provide it. In this way, another prophet would come, re-establish the same deen, and then depart. You can see the pattern of revelation. Every prophet would bring back the original teaching of the previous prophet. And if there were elements given earlier that were only temporary, suited to the conditions of that time, then those would be substituted with what was appropriate for the new era. Thus, al-Din would be re-established and then continue.
The Quran further explains how the followers of earlier scriptures altered them. It says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ فَاخْتُلِفَ فِيهِ. We gave Moses the book, and his followers created divisions within it. Elsewhere it says, يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَنْ مَوَاضِعِهِ وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. They altered the words from their places and forgot a portion of what they had been reminded of. And again, فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Woe to those who write the book with their own hands and then say, this is from God. So you see, the Quran itself bears witness. The al-Din given to earlier prophets, the al-Kitab they received, was later altered by their followers. They introduced changes to visions, and much of it was erased or forgotten. The nature and significance of the final preserved form of al-Din as a system of life. Thus, as events progressed, the matter reached the point where the Holy Quran was revealed. It was revealed in that era, and the permanent principles and values of life were recorded in complete and final form within this last book. The Quran declares, وَتَمَتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. The words of your Lord have been perfected in truth and justice. None can change his words, and he is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. 2 points are made here. Deen has reached completion, and it has become immutable. There is no longer any need for change. Elsewhere it is said, Inna nahnu nazalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. Indeed, we have sent down the reminder, and we are its guardian. Thus, 3 things are established. 1. Deen is complete in the Quran. 2. What is given in it requires no alteration. 3. God himself has taken responsibility for its preservation. This is the proof of the finality of prophethood. No other religious community in the world makes such a claim. None of their scriptures state that Deen has been perfected within them. None of them claim that God himself has guaranteed their preservation. And leaving aside their claims, historical evidence is before us. Even the followers of those religions do not assert that what they have today is the original revelation given to their prophet or founder. In contrast, history itself testifies to the preservation of the Quran. And whoever accepts the Quran as the divine code of revelation believes that it is complete and immutable. The testimony that this is now al-Din lies in what I have already explained, its pragmatic test.
Its preservation is attested by history, and it declares that this is the system of life through which humanity's problems will now be solved.
The fundamental features of al-Din and their results. My dear brothers, the proof of this can only be obtained if any nation wishes to establish it within its own society, if it practically implements this system. It has itself declared, if you establish it, these will be the results. And these are not mental or mystical results, such as feeling ecstasy, experiencing spiritual intoxication, or imagining heavenly illuminations while sitting here. Absolutely not. The claim is, establish this system, and no person will sleep hungry at night. Establish this system, and no human being will bow before another human being. These are tangible, visible results. Unlike religion, which postpones everything to the hereafter, al-Din demonstrates its outcomes here in this world. Religion says, the taste of this wine cannot be known until you drink it. Zoke ein bada nadani bakhoda ta nashi. Meaning only the one who experiences it can know, and he cannot explain it to others. These are the deceptions of religion, the enchantments of mysticism. But al-Din places its results openly before you. Establish this system, and no individual will go hungry at night. Test it and see. Establish this system, and the dignity of humanity will never be humiliated. Establish this system, and every person's status in society will be determined solely by his deeds, character, and morals. No other standard will exist. Establish this system, and there will be no distinction between one child and another by birth.
How can the Hindu Deen be equal to the divinely revealed al-Din? Now the question is, are these results merely matters of belief? Can it be said that yes, this too is a true Deen, and the Hindu's Deen is also true, even though in it the 4 varnas, castes, are considered divinely ordained by birth? A Brahmin born in a Brahmin's house is said to have emerged from the head of Ishwar, destined all his life to receive service from others. Their Dharma even teaches, this is a verse from the Vedas, that if a woman has 10 pregnancies, yet a Brahmin places his hand upon her shoulder, she becomes the Brahmin's woman, because the Brahmin's rank is so exalted. A Shudra is born only to serve the 3 higher varnas. He cannot even walk upon the road on which a Brahmin walks. This is one system of life. In contrast, the principle of al-Din is that by birth there is no difference between 2 human children. In dignity they are equal. I ask, can these 2 systems of life both be true at the same time? Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, 1888-1958, said that universal truths are found in all religions and that all religions are true in their own way. Very well, but let us ask, can these 2 things both be true simultaneously? Can it be true that the king is the incarnation of Ishwar and that every command of his must be obeyed as if it were God's command? And at the same time, can it be true that the system of life is wa amruhum shura bainahum, their affairs are decided by mutual consultation, and that no person, not even a prophet, has the right to impose his command upon others?
I ask, can these 2 systems both be true? Can it be true that sustenance and wealth are entirely in the hands of one ruler, who gives millions to whom he wills and snatches everything from whom he wills, leaving him to die hungry? And that the deprived person has no right even to utter a word of complaint? And at the same time, can it be true that sustenance and provision are the result of human effort, that society is responsible for them, and that God is not directly responsible for distributing them? I ask again, can these 2 systems both be true at once? Universal truths are found equally in all religions, it is said. But I respond, why speak only of religions? Even an atheist does not say, lie, deceive, commit adultery. These moral basics do not require religion, nor even belief in God. Here, however, the condition is that the system of life itself is founded upon the principle of Deen, that by birth all human children are equally worthy of dignity. This is not man-made, it is God-made. It is immutable. No human being can alter it in any way. This is what belief in God truly means. Now you have understood what the practical connection of faith in God is.
The basic meaning of faith in the hereafter.
Now the question is, what is meant by faith in the hereafter? My dear brothers, faith in the hereafter means every action inevitably produces its own unchangeable result. It does not only happen there, it happens here as well. The meaning of hereafter is future. After an action, the result appears. That result is the future of the action. Every action has its own hereafter. Faith in the hereafter means to see whether my action is right or wrong. Look at the result that follows. That result is called the hereafter. Did the result actually occur which was claimed would occur? Did the test tube confirm that the formula produced what it claimed? This, my dear ones, is faith in God. This is faith in the hereafter. The world of religion has nothing to do with this.
What is the meaning of reward, and what is goodness? As I have just explained, speak the truth, do not lie. But what does faith in God mean in this context? If an atheist speaks the truth, does he not receive his reward? What is reward, my dear ones? Reward is the name given to the results of a system of life for human beings. Let me ask, in the capitalist system, a man inherits millions from his father, owns 4 factories, and has 10,000 laborers working under him. Each laborer earns 10 rupees a day. He gives 3 rupees to the worker and takes the remaining 7 home. Then he sets up a water station for horses, donates 1,000 rupees to charity, lays carpets in a mosque, hangs fans in the Kaaba. These are considered great acts of piety. But within the system he has established, where he takes 7 rupees daily from the hard-earned wages of 1,000 men, if he gives a few coins in charity, will you call this goodness? The Quran has rejected this notion of goodness. It says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبْلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west. Do not deceive yourselves into thinking that goodness lies in such rituals. You set up water stations for pilgrims, beautify the Kaaba. Do you think this is goodness? Goodness is, what have you done for the benefit of humanity? Religion calls goodness turning your face towards the Qibla. If you do not, your prayer is invalid, and without prayer there is no salvation. But the Quran says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبْلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Why deceive yourselves? As I often say, wrong oceans of morality have destroyed the world. Open evils like lying, cheating, or adultery deceive no one. Who would be deceived by them? But the false concept of morality, the false concept of goodness, that is what al-Din, my dear brothers, comes to correct. It's wrong to say that evils are insignificant. Notice that the Quran does not give long lists of prohibitions. It mentions in passing, yes, speak the truth, do not lie, do not deceive. But the real point it makes is the false concept of goodness you have created in your minds is invalid. Definition of the Quranic system of life, a program solely for the benefit of humanity. It is said, وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That which benefits mankind remains on the earth. There is only one principle. Survival belongs to that action which is beneficial for humanity. This is what is called a system of life, a code of living. Such a code can only be one. There cannot be two. Yes, it is possible that one system may be beneficial for humanity, while another may be harmful. But I ask, can both systems of life be equally true? This cannot be. Either it will be beneficial for all humanity, or it will be beneficial only for a particular group, family, tribe, or nation, while harmful for the rest. Can both such systems be equally true? This is the real question. The fundamental belief of the nation of Israel that led to its ruin, they are a nation by lineage. Now let us turn to the Holy Quran. The verse 262 appears in this context. You know the story of the children of Israel is being narrated. Wherever they were deceived, wherever destruction befell them, the Quran explains the reasons. The fundamental belief of the Israelites was, no person can enter paradise unless he is born into the lineage of Israel. Remember, Judaism is a racial religion, confined to one lineage. The Israelites are a nation by descent. They do not marry outside their lineage, and no non-Israelite can convert to become a Jew. It is not a missionary religion. It is restricted to that lineage.
Now, consider this belief, that paradise is only for one lineage, and no other human being can enter it. Lineage is something into which no outsider can enter. It is determined by birth. And along with this, the belief was that paradise is only for them and for no one else. How destructive this belief was, how false, how deceptive, how self-deluding. And not only self-deluding, if it were accepted as true, then all humanity outside the lineage of Israel would be condemned forever, and no human being would have any power to attain salvation, simply because he was not born in the house of Israel. He could not be born there. Genie Merzi Talale. No matter how much effort, it is impossible. You see how fundamental this issue was. The Quran declared, "How can you say that al-Din, which is given by God for the success and welfare of all humanity, is restricted to one lineage? This is utterly false. The child born into the house of Israel has no merit simply because of his birth. Merely because he was born there, he will go to paradise, and one who was not born there, no matter how righteous his life, no matter how good he is, he will go to hell. This is completely wrong." Any child, whatever nation he is born into, has equal status. He is neither an infidel nor a Muslim. It is said, "What belief have you adopted?" All of this is false. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم. Indeed, those who believed and those who were Jews and Christians and Sabians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does righteous deeds, for them is their reward with their Lord. The divine deen has no connection with birth. All humanity may call themselves Christians, Jews, Magians, or even be born in Muslim households, or in Jewish, Christian, or Sabian homes. Whoever they may be, birth has no significance here. Each must anew bring faith in Allah and the hereafter, and this door is open to all. Whoever believes in these fundamental truths and performs righteous deeds will receive his reward from his Lord, and he will have no fear nor grief. In this respect, no matter which nation he is born into, he has equal status. By birth, he is neither an infidel nor a Muslim.
Belief in the book is the basic condition for being a Muslim. My dear brothers, faith means conviction in the truth of a formula, and righteous action means taking that formula into the laboratory and testing it. This applies to every human being. It is an open matter. Now the question arises, is faith only in Allah and the hereafter? You see that the mention of faith in the messenger and in the book, where has that gone? The real thing is al-Kitab. In reality, the relationship between God and man, my dear ones, is through the revelation which God sends for the guidance of mankind. Apart from this, there is no other connection. The essence is al-Kitab. Everything else is simply the code given by God. The first point is, it cannot be man-made. Anything made by man cannot be immutable, whether it be the intellect of Plato, 384 to 322 BC, or the genius of Einstein, 1879 to 1955. After a short time, you will see that every human idea undergoes change. Only the revelation from God can be immutable. Faith in Allah means this, and faith in the hereafter means it is not merely a matter of belief, but these are formulas of life whose results must manifest. Now see, does the Quran define faith only in this way, or does it also emphasize faith in al-Kitab? The real thing is al-Kitab. The messenger in his time would bring the book, establish deen, and then depart. God's essence cannot be grasped by our conjecture, imagination, or thought. Our connection with him remains through the book that is with us. That is why it is called Kalam Allah, the Word of God. When we recite the Quran in the morning, it is God speaking to us, and within it are immutable formulas. When we act upon them and see the results, that is faith in the hereafter.
According to the Holy Quran, the components of faith are 5. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ 2:177. Throughout the Quran, the components of faith are these 5. Faith in Allah, faith in the angels, faith in the messengers, faith in the scriptures, faith in the hereafter. Among these, the book and the hereafter are included. These 5 components are inseparable parts of the formula of faith.
It is not, as in verse 262, that faith in Allah and the hereafter alone is sufficient. The Quran defines faith comprehensively. Elsewhere it says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِاللَّهِ 4136, whoever disbelieves in Allah, and continues, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا بَعِيدًا 4136. Whoever disbelieves in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last day has gone far astray. Thus, these 5 are the components of faith. Denial of any one of them is disbelief. Acceptance of all 5 is faith. The method of understanding the Holy Quran must always be kept in view. The Quran's style is that sometimes it explains in detail and sometimes it mentions briefly. This is the Quran's method. Therefore, it has instructed, do not cling to one verse alone. Look at what details I have given elsewhere. I have listed the 5 components before you. Now see. Sometimes it mentions them briefly. For example, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ 4130. Those who said, Our Lord is Allah, and then stood firm. Upon them angels descend. Here only Allah is mentioned. If someone says, the Quran requires only faith in God, see here it mentions only Allah. He is mistaken. Look also at other places where Allah and the hereafter are mentioned, such as 262. مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does righteous deeds, for them is reward with their Lord. Elsewhere, فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ, believe in Allah and His messengers. And فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا, believe in Allah, His messenger, and the light, the book, which we have sent down. Here 3 components are mentioned. You see, the Quran enumerates 5 components of faith, but at different places it highlights 1 or more, depending on emphasis. This is not, God forbid, because 5 were too many, so 1 was written instead, or because of poetic convenience. No. When the Quran emphasizes one aspect, it mentions that alone. Therefore, to say, this verse mentions only Allah and the hereafter, not the book or the messenger, is ignorance, self-deception, or deliberate misguidance. The Quran requires faith in all 5. And as I said earlier, even one born in a Muslim household is told, believe. If someone is born in a Muslim home and already accepts these 5, to then say, no, believe only in 2, Allah and the hereafter, and leave the other 3, is mockery. The distinction between faith and disbelief is deciding according to the book revealed by God. The meaning of faith in God has been made clear. What is it? It is said, اتَّبِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُم مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Follow what has been sent down to you from your Lord, and do not follow any guardians besides Him. Little do you remember. This is faith in God, to follow only what has been revealed by Him. And the distinction between faith and disbelief is defined as وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, they are the disbelievers. Thus, the decision between faith and disbelief is made on this one basis. I have said, the foundation is the book.
Bima anzal Allah 544, what Allah has revealed. Some may argue, very well then, believe in the Torah, believe in the Gospel, for they too were revealed by Allah. But, my dear brothers, it is the Qur'an. As Abul Kalam Azad, 1888-1958, explained, the meaning of Bima anzal Allah 544 is clarified by Bima nuzzila ala Muhammad 47:2, what was sent down upon Muhammad. After these clarifications, if a non-Muslim speaks, we address him differently. For him, this reference is not the standard. We respond in another way and refute whatever claim he presents. But if a Muslim who accepts the Quran says, follow whatever teachings your religion has, worship as you wish, and that is enough for salvation, then where will he place these verses? Where will he place Bima nuzzila ala Muhammad 47:2? Where will he place the verse that says, whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed is a disbeliever?
Every citizen of the state must keep the law of the state in view. Why is this so? My dear brothers, forgive me if I take a little more time. I have said that deen is a system of life, a code of living. It is the constitution of a state. If you deny the constitution of a state, then see what happens. Now I come to the next part, wa amila salihan, 262. I was saying, if you deny the constitution of Pakistan, say, I do not accept it, rebel against it, declare it wrong, and yet live as a peaceful citizen, do you know what the punishment will be? It is treason against the state. It is the crime of rebellion. If you live in a state, you must accept its constitution. Whatever it declares lawful, you must accept as lawful. Whatever it declares unlawful, you must accept as unlawful. If you do not wish to accept it, then leave the country. The state allows freedom. Whoever wishes may accept, whoever wishes may not. But within a territory, within a state, the constitution must be accepted.
The duty of government towards non-Muslims and the determination of their rights. The Quran permits that even within an Islamic state, if someone does not accept the Quran as his code of life, he may adopt another religion. No punishment is imposed upon him. He will then be treated as a non-Muslim. Non-Muslims may live in an Islamic state with full human dignity. This is permitted. But if a person, as a citizen of Pakistan, lives in the state yet opposes the constitution, spreads hatred against it, rebels against it, then he will be arrested. He may say, I obey all laws, I am a peaceful citizen, I even keep to the left on the road. But will such good deeds outweigh the crime of rebellion? No. This is the fundamental matter. This is the system of life, the code of living, which you call Al-Kitab. And this, my dear brothers, is what the Quran calls Amal Saleh, righteous action. Now the matter becomes clear. Someone may say, but I always kept to the left. Why am I charged with this crime? The answer is, compared to rebellion against the Constitution, such deeds carry no weight. This is the meaning of لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Righteousness is not turning your face to the east or the west. True righteousness is مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. Faith in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets. And then righteous action. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. Spending wealth out of love for God on relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, the beggar, and for freeing those in bondage. The Quranic explanation of righteous action. You have seen what righteousness is. It is to spend wealth for the needy, the poor, and those whose necks are bound in chains of slavery, to free them, to spend for them. And وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَ الزَّكَاةَ وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. To establish prayer, to give zakat, to fulfill promises and covenants. And وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. To remain steadfast in times of hardship, adversity, and battle, when enemies attack the state or calamity strikes, to endure with courage, to stand firm, to resist. Such people are described, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا. These are the ones who are true in their claim of faith. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. These are the ones who can truly be called muttaqun, God-conscious. It is not merely turning your face to the east or west that fulfills the purpose of Islam. My dear brothers, many verses in the Quran are of this nature. Another verse is in Surah At-Tawbah. أَجَعَلْتُمْ سِقَايَةَ الْحَاجِّ وَعِمَارَةَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Do you consider the providing of water for pilgrims and the maintenance of the sacred mosque? Is this equal? كَمَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَجَاهَدَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. To one who believes in Allah and the last day and strives in the way of Allah? Do you think these two are the same? لا يستوون عند الله. They are not equal in the sight of God. Your self-deceptions may lead you to conclusions, but before God they are not equal. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. God does not guide the wrongdoers. Who are the wrongdoers here? Those who think that by setting up water stations for pilgrims or decorating mosques, they are equal to those who dedicate their lives and wealth in continuous struggle for His cause. You may deceive yourselves, but you cannot deceive God. This too is called zulm, wrongdoing.
Notice where zulm appears here. It is the wrong notion of morality. It is not oppression of others, but the false idea that ritualistic acts equal the struggle for justice and truth. Yes, providing water for pilgrims and beautifying mosques are good acts, but the Quran says those who think these are equal to striving in God's path are wrongdoers. This is amal salah, my dear brothers. This is faith. Now the matter is clear. Through faith and righteous deeds, al-Din is established, the system in which the salvation of humanity lies. Remember, this is not about individual salvation in the hereafter. It is about the collective success and welfare of humanity, and it depends upon this.
The Quranic clarification regarding rebellion and the standard of righteousness. The Quran, my dear brothers, has declared opposition to the constitution of the state and rebellion against it as the crime of treason. Forgive me if I take a few extra minutes today. The matter is important, and if I postpone it to the next lesson, the discussion will remain incomplete. The Quran's position is that whoever fundamentally does not accept the constitution of the state and then goes to the court listing what he calls his small good deeds, those deeds will not benefit him in the face of the crime of rebellion. Consider, if someone says, I never committed a traffic violation, I never picked anyone's pocket, I never stole, I never robbed, all these are fine. But if he rebels against the constitution of the state, then the punishment for treason will be applied. The Quran says, أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ نُزُلًا. Do those who disbelieve think they can take my servants as protectors besides me? We have prepared hell as lodging for the disbelievers. See the crime, my dear ones. قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Shall we inform you of those whose deeds are most ruinous? It is said, some people's deeds bring them the greatest loss. الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. Those whose efforts are lost in worldly life, while they think they are doing good. This is not about thieves or robbers. These are people who imagine they are doing righteous deeds. But the Quran says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَلِقَائِهِ. They are those who disbelieved in the signs of their Lord and in meeting Him. That is, they denied the Constitution, the divine law, ayat, and they denied accountability before God. Therefore, فَحَبِدَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ. Their deeds are rendered void. All their actions are wasted. They cannot benefit them against the crime of rebellion. فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا. We shall not establish for them any weight on the day of resurrection. If I sum up all this detail, the meaning of verse 262 is, O children of Israel, this has been your way, and yet your belief is that you are God's beloved children, 5:18, and that paradise is reserved for your lineage, 2:11. Listen, this is your delusion. Paradise is not reserved for any lineage. Our law is, whether Jew, Christian, Sabian, or those who without formal affiliation believe in God, or even those born in Muslim households, whoever truly believes in God's sovereignty, the continuity of life, and the law of recompense as explained in the Quran, 2:37, and performs righteous deeds according to its program, then by the law of recompense of their sustainer, they will receive their reward. The result will be, no fear will touch them, nor will grief cause them sorrow. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Our Lord, accept from us, indeed you are the all-hearing, the all-knowing.